Welcome to the second hour of For the Record here on the Law and Crime Trial Network. I'm your host, Anjanette Levy, and thanks for being with us on this Friday afternoon. And welcome to all of our viewers on YouTube who are joining us. We appreciate you being with us as well. We are going to be taking your questions this hour, so feel free to send them in. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube chat, Twitch. Send us your questions, and we will do our best to answer them for you. Of course, Johnny Depp is suing his ex-wife Amber Heard for $50 million, claiming she defamed him in an op-ed in the Washington Post back in 2018. Amber Heard countersuing her ex-husband for $100 million, claiming that he defamed her as well. That his attorney Adam Waldman had sent out some tweets and calling her a hoax artist and things of this nature, and that hurt her ability to get gigs in Hollywood. So two competing kind of claims going on here. The court is dark until May 16th, so we will resume testimony on May 16th. You'll be able to watch that here and on our YouTube channel. But until then, we are going to discuss a lot of hearsay objections that we heard. Amber Heard took the stand on Wednesday afternoon. Her testimony continued on Thursday, and a lot of hearsay objections when there was a discussion where she would try to bring up what maybe Johnny Depp's children said to her and some other people. So let's listen to a clip about those hearsay objections.
Objection calls for speculation and hearsay.
Did there come a time that you did move in with him?
Objection leading. Your Honor, I'm going to object on hearsay.
My co-star.
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay. Objection, hearsay. Her communications are hearsay.
I tried to say that it was fine.
Objection, hearsay.
I found out that he was in a hotel room with Paul Bettany.
Objection, hearsay.
Did you have with Lily Rose without saying anything she said?
Objection, hearsay. Objection, leading.
If we approach and your kid's in the car on the street, you
Objection,
need to move
hearsay.
it.
That calls for hearsay, Your Honor.
When he finished filming, the plan was to do
Objection, Your Honor,
detox.
Hearsay. Objection, form, compound.
Which color is underneath the other?
Objection. Calls for speculation.
Yes.
Objection, form, lack of foundation.
I was in such shock and
Objection, Your Honor, non-responsive. Objection, form, compound.
I'll allow it, but just trying to keep the record clear. 272 has already been entered into evidence without that redactions, and there wasn't any objection. So if I could have both sides to keep track of their evidence, it's not my job to keep this. It's really the party's responsibility to take care of the record, not mine.
My apologies on that one, Your Honor.
All righty. You heard it. You saw it. We condensed it all down. Hearsay, hearsay, hearsay. So what does it all mean? Well, joining us to talk about this is Mike Korobonics. He is with us again for our second hour of For the Record and for our YouTube lunch show. I call this the lunch show. I love calling it that. Mike, thanks again for being with us today. All of those hearsay objections, it was... I mean, you could almost make a drinking game out of it. I hate to say that. But what do you explain to the viewers what all of these hearsay objections were about? And there are also exceptions to the hearsay rule, many exceptions. So you tell us, explain it and break it down for us.
Well, the very basic is hearsay is an out-of-court statement that's being used in court to prove the fact of the matter is being asserted. So what that's basically saying in regular language as opposed to legal language is if the person who said it can't be cross-examined and sitting on the stand, it shouldn't come in, except, and there are numerous exceptions. It could be a out-of-court statement that was given previously by an opposing party that they could be subject to cross-examination on at a later time. It could be used to show not necessarily that it's an out-of-court statement to prove the fact of the matter asserted, but it was an out-of-court statement that influenced the intent or the actions of the person who was testifying. So there's numerous admissibility, especially when a out-of-court statement may be inconsistent with something that's being testified to. I sort of was a little surprised because the judge was sustaining many of these objections without us really fully hearing what the question or the answer was. And I think that is a dangerous road, but everyone must keep in mind that the whole theory and basis of the rules of evidence really go towards admissibility, not keeping evidence out, but putting evidence in, more so in a civil case than in a criminal case, because there's different levels and standards of proof.
Well, I think we should point out, too, there were a lot of sidebars. I mean, when Amber Heard's testimony first took place, or when she first started testifying on Wednesday, tons and tons of sidebars. So they were going up and talking with the judge about some of these things, and they did it yesterday as well. But yeah, you're right. Lots of objections, lots of hearsay objections, and then we saw some exceptions to the hearsay rule being used to get that testimony in as well. We are taking your questions here on YouTube, so put them in the chat. You can send them on Twitch as well, Twitter, Facebook. We'll try to get to all of them, and they're sending them to me on my iPhone. So if I'm looking down at my phone, don't think I'm ignoring you, Mike, or any of the viewers. I'm reading the questions. So our first question has to do with a big moment that happened in court yesterday. Kate Moss, the supermodel, ex-girlfriend of Johnny Depp, was brought up by Amber Heard in her testimony. March 23rd, 2015, she describes this argument in which she claimed that Johnny Depp, she found some messages on his iPad when he was asleep, and that she said he was cheating on her with this woman with whom he had been intimate in the past. Her sister gets involved in this argument. They're at the top of the stairs, and Amber Heard says something to the effect of, all I could think about was Kate Moss at the top of the stairs. And when she said that, there was a fist pump with Ben Chu, the lead attorney for Johnny Depp, turned around and gave a fist pump to his co-counsel. Johnny Depp kind of smiled as well. And I have a theory about why they were so happy about this. But, Mike, I'm wondering why you believe they might be happy about this. This is something also that Amber Heard brought up in the UK trial. She had claimed that two people told her that Johnny Depp had thrown Kate Moss down the stairs. We have never heard Kate Moss say that.
I think one of the things we have is, and people really have to understand, that a trial is very organic. It grows and changes direction every day based upon questions. I think one of the things that the attorney may have been giving a fist pump for was that they may have preparation of testimony by Kate Moss that will deny that, and that now the fact that she testified as to Kate Moss on direct examination, that they, what we call, opened the door, that really said no longer can you use the hearsay objection. This was stated, and we have something to contradict that testimony. That could be. It's very difficult to predict because we only know what's happening on the witness stand. Lawyers have to prepare to deal with the witness stand by going through documents and many other parts of their investigation that perhaps the court ruled you can't bring into evidence, and maybe they had that ruling, and now they can bring it into evidence, and it builds the credibility. As I'm watching here, I could see why if it looks like that kind of smile a lawyer has when he could get good evidence in to help his client.
Yes, and let's play. Can we play it again just so people can see it? Because it was such a quick moment. But Ben Chu, obviously, very happy. Johnny Depp kind of smiled as well. You see it there, and this is where she said, all I could think about was Kate Moss on the stairs. And then look at him, fist pump. Johnny Depp smiles, back to the testimony. So maybe we'll see Kate Moss. I don't know. I don't know if Kate Moss wants to be dragged into this, but Johnny Depp's team could present a rebuttal case. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Unfortunately, we have to wait until May 16th to see what happens. All right, Mike. So this question is from Twitch, and it comes from Spencer B311. Hey, Spencer, thanks for being with us today. What's to stop Amber from discussing the case with her attorneys? It seems so easy to get away with that to prepare for cross-examination. And I want to add just this little tidbit to this question, Mike, because Judge Ascarati has told all of the witnesses once they're on the stand, they can't discuss their testimony with anyone, okay? Not lawyers, nobody. She has told every one of them that. So what is to stop Amber from doing this, from stopping or from discussing anything with her lawyers? They've got like 9 or 10 days to chit-chat.
Well, listen, no matter what we go through in the world with technology and everything, we have to base whatever we do on faith and trust. And one of the things we have to base is a lawyer's ethical obligation. If a lawyer violates that order, which is called a sequestration order, is that you do not speak to a witness while they're in the middle of testimony, then that's a major problem for a lawyer. And that could result in a mistrial, and that could result in a lot of problems for the case, not only that case, but that lawyer going further, whatever discipline they may face for violating that court order, which is so central to any court trial.
And they're officers of the court. They are expected to be truthful and to not pull any shenanigans. So they can get in big, big trouble. Sanctions, you name it. All right. A lot of you are probably wondering about what the jury can and cannot do over this long break, this week-long break. Let's hear what Judge Ascarati told the jury at the end of the day yesterday. So we'll listen to this and talk about it on the other side.
So you're not to read anything about this case. You're not to watch anything about this case. You're not to listen to anything about this case. This applies to television, newspapers, magazines, the internet, and any online sites. Further, you're not to read, watch, or listen to anything about this case on any social networking sites such as Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, etc., or any similar sites. In addition, you must not communicate with anyone about the case, whether in person, over the phone, by email, text, or instant messaging, or by any other electronic or non-electronic means. This includes friends, family, coworkers, acquaintances, and strangers. I also instruct you that you cannot do any research or make any inquiries about this case, whether online or by any other means. What you learn about this case is limited to what you learn in the four walls of this courtroom when proceedings are underway, okay? So please enjoy your week off, get plenty of fresh air and rest, all right? And then I'll see you at 9 a.m. on Monday, May 16th, okay? All right, thank you.
So basically, Judge Ascarati is like, you can't go on social media. I almost feel like she's like, basically, like, delete all the apps off your phone or what have you. Go outside, enjoy the fresh weather, go to the park every day. I don't know. So, Mike, your thoughts on this? It might be hard for the jury to do that, or I was thinking yesterday, they may be so sick of this. I mean, these are people who are taking time away from their everyday lives to sit and listen to this evidence. They have to be attentive. They may be like, oh, yeah, let's take that week, and I'm going to breathe. I'm going to go to work. I'm going to clean the house, whatever.
I tend to agree with you. It becomes a job. And I really like the judge's analogy at the end of her instruction, which really removed any doubt as to what you can do or can't do. He said, you can't discuss this case, research this case. You can't do anything that you can't do within the four walls of these courtrooms. So I think that's a great way to put it. I do agree with you. Everything seems great when you're watching this, when you feel like it. If you're watching us now, you can watch this. If you want to go get a cup of coffee, you get up and go to get a cup of coffee. In the court, it's like a job, like you said. And it's not always as dramatic or highlighted as we like to think, because there are slow parts of a trial that just to get evidence in where you have to maybe call 2 or 3 witnesses, and it really seems like, why are they doing this? But the rules of evidence make us do that. So I think that's your oath as a juror is, I am not going to be influenced by anybody except fellow jurors when we listen to the case, when we speak about the case after all the evidence is put in. So that's the promise you make and the oath you take as a juror.
All right. Well, Mike, we have another question. This one comes from our YouTube chat, that Q on the side of the screen. This is from Star Sprinkle, and she has these like fun little squiggly S's that I really like. And it's, again, from YouTube. Why are Elon Musk and James Franco no longer testifying on behalf of Amber Heard? I think that's a really good question. We addressed this last week on the air about a week and a half ago when we got word that they were no longer going to testify. They can't be compelled. We know that James Franco sat for a deposition in the UK case, but neither Elon Musk nor James Franco sat for depositions in this case. So, Mike, why are Elon Musk and James Franco saying, yeah, I don't think so?
There could be many reasons, and that calls for a lot of speculation. Obviously, my first instinct is if they were extremely important witnesses for whatever party, for whoever thinks they could benefit from their testimony, I think there would have been a push to have them subpoenaed and brought into court. There could be many reasons why that isn't occurring, or there could be other legal issues that we don't know about for each one of those potential witnesses that they wouldn't testify and would be able to suppress a subpoena. So it's a very good question, but there's too many answers that could be there, especially as a trial progresses.
And I think in case people are new to the case, they need to know that James Franco and Amber Heard dated. a day after she claims Johnny Depp assaulted her, and he claimed he told her the relationship was over at the penthouse. She was in the elevator with James Franco the next night. So, and Johnny Depp had suspected throughout their marriage that Amber Heard may have been cheating on him with James Franco. So they were together in the elevator the day after the May 21st, 2016 incident. And Elon Musk, she had dated him as well. So we had heard that testimony during the trial. Next question comes from JAK on YouTube. Why didn't Amber file criminal charges on any of these allegations? And there are multiple allegations that she's making. So your thoughts, Mike Korobonics, as a former prosecutor and now defense attorney, on why Amber Heard, with so many of these incidents, wouldn't have gone to the police to tell them about any of them. The first time we learn anything about it is May 27th, 2016, when she goes to court and asks for the domestic violence restraining order.
That's an excellent question. I think that's going to be a major question floating in every juror's mind when they deliberate to come to a verdict in this case. I really believe that that's going to be a strong argument on behalf of Johnny Depp to basically say is, you saw this person being so emotional and how much this affected her. Why, in fact, then didn't she report this? Now, I am curious to see if that her counsel will put forward some sort of expert to explain about the basically post-traumatic stress if you are in fact a victim, and why you may not testify, or why you may not report this to law enforcement. That's a really good question, and it's going to be interesting to see if it's going to be answered, and if it's not answered by her attorneys in either their cross-examination or their commenting in their summation. I think it's going to cause a major problem for the defense in this case.
And, I kind of want to add to that, but we've got to take a quick break, because she went and filed for the restraining order, but police reports would have backed all of this up, right? So it's an interesting question, and one maybe we'll be able to answer at the end of the case. All right, we are going to take a quick break here on the network. YouTube viewers, stay with us. This is something we have to do for TV. We basically air commercials to pay the bills. So it's just going to be a couple of minutes. We'll be right back. Stay with us. You're watching For the Record on Law and Crime and on YouTube. Welcome to the second hour of For the Record here on Law and Crime. I'm Anjanette Levy. We are taking your questions on YouTube, on Twitter, Facebook, you name it. That's where we're getting your questions, and we're answering them right now. Mike Korobonics, Law and Crime legal analyst, is with me. Mike, this comes from Haley Claire on Facebook. She asks, what could be the potential outcome of the case should the jury decide that Heard and Depp were abusive to one another?
It could be a deadlock kind of verdict, because you have the claim and the cross-claim, and if they can't agree who was correct, then it's become a hung jury.
And this one comes from Dee on YouTube. She sent this directly to Addie, our wonderful Addie, who works on our YouTube channel. Dee asks, will Amber's sister still testify? This is a really good question. Whitney Heard, will she still testify after walking out on the deposition and refusing to return? And my understanding of this is that Whitney Heard was, questioned, she left, and the deposition never finished. So, Mike, what's the outcome there?
That's an interesting question. It will depend on why it didn't finish. If they're saying she didn't go through her deposition and she refused, then I think they're going to have trouble putting her on the stand because she didn't fulfill the pretrial request.
And really, that request has to do with both sides being able to question witnesses. They have to know, they depose them, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, so that each side knows what the witness is going to testify to, right?
Absolutely. That's what we call discovery. It prepares us for the trial. And it's not, when I said request, it's a subpoena. You're under a court order to go to that deposition. And it's a very general, their questions are easier asked than in a courtroom because it gives you a basis to look into the whole picture of the case and what will be admissible at trial.
All right, now we've heard a lot about this couple arguing, and we've actually heard it with our own ears. There are lots of recordings. So let's listen to one of these recordings and see whether or not we can draw any conclusions from it.
Walking away is necessary. Especially between you and I. It is of utmost importance, because the next move, if I don't walk away or just go out for a little while, it's just gonna be a bloodbath, and like it was on the island, of course, like it was, it's not worth it, man. It's not worth it.
Yeah,
Why be miserable? Can we just
if the options are there.
have some semblance of understanding for each other?
Please, can we? Because I'm not trying to say, hey, Michael, no one in their right mind is going to choose bloodbath over walking away. Obviously, if you're given the option between the two,
Then why has it been chosen so many times?
it's that snowball. It is not a distinct choice. Either one of us make at any discernible point.
No, it's stubbornness, and it's all
And
kinds
it
of shit.
builds, right? Like you build, I build, it isn't like at one moment either of us sign a certificate of saying, or like sign the contract or say, okay, now I'll bloodbath. No. So acting as though there's a choice between the two is irrelevant. I'm not asking you to stay over having a bloodbath. I'm asking you, over walking away. I'm not asking you to have a bloodbath over walking away. I'm asking you to work it out over prolonging it and making it bigger.
Okay, so Mike Korobonics, I'm wondering what you think of that recording. Can you draw any conclusions from it?
The one thing I'd like to know is who actually taped that, because if it was her, I think it is not as effective. And I mean that by saying it appears that if someone was saying, walking away, and you're not saying, yeah, that's the best thing to do, and you're taping it, obviously it appears, I would argue in front of a jury, that someone who taped that, who's not walking away at someone's request, has a bigger intention with that tape in the future. They're setting them up. That's what I would argue.
Interesting point. Yeah, and Johnny Depp had repeatedly, he testified that he would try to walk away. And there are recordings in which she wants him to stay and continue the argument or conversation. And we've heard a lot of testimony about this. Let's go to some questions now from our viewers. This one comes from Twitch. City of Lunar is the name, Mike. I love that. City of Lunar. Do you think the jury will pick up on discrepancies between the amount of injuries, the number of injuries Amber claims she sustained throughout the Australia incident, and the actual photo evidence?
I think that's going to be a major point, because they're going to say where the jury will want to see any type of physical evidence that will substantiate the words that come out of the witness's mouth. So I think that's very important. And the lack of those type of proofs with pictures or something or medical records is a problem.
Now, Catherine Lizardo is now with us, our Friday buddy. Catherine, thanks so much for being with us. She's a plaintiff's attorney out of Texas, and we're so happy to have you here. Happy to have Mike as well. Let's go to another Twitch question. This one is from N. Moth. And Catherine, I know you're going to love this question because it's about Dr. Curry, and we talked about Dr. Curry last week. Dr. Curry and Dr. Hughes, the psychologist for Amber Heard, had opposing diagnoses. Is there a possibility of a court-appointed forensic psychologist to provide a third opinion? That's a really good question, because if it's the person's appointed by the court, you can't really say that they're in the tank for one side over the other.
That's true. Now, it's an excellent question in terms of that. Now we really see the battle of experts between Dr. Curie and Dr. Hughes. They do have contradictory opinion, and that's what experts do. We're in a civil litigation. you expect both experts to have completely different point of view. That's why their credibility and how they support their analysis is very critical. So I very doubt that the court will appoint a third forensic expert, because of course that includes the court's time and also expenses. But what we have are two battling experts that the jury have seen and have to weigh their evidence and the way they testify. Who is more credible? Who is more likable? So when you look at the body language of Dr. Curie and the body language of Dr. Hughes, it's very interesting how they're very different. And when you look at Dr. Curie, she seems to be more at ease. She wasn't looking at her notes. And then when you look at Dr. Hughes, she looks at the jury very well and straight to the eye, but she was looking at her notes a lot. So that might be something that the jury might pick up on too.
And Dr. Hughes has been testifying in court for decades now. Our Imran Ansari actually told us all about that the other day. The partner in his firm, Arthur Aidala, apparently was the first person to ever qualify her as an expert. So just a little bit of trivia there for you. Okay, this next question comes from Adelaide Tuzner. How can they record each other, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard? How can they record one another without a court order and then present it as evidence in a court of law? I thought you could not record someone without their knowledge. Great question, Mike.
That depends on the state in which it occurred. Some states need both parties to consent to have the conversation recorded. Other states have only. The major thing that always goes through it is that the one person has to be a party to the conversation, and as long as they're a party to a conversation, in some states, only one person has to know it's being recorded.
And I just want to add, these conversations were recorded in California, many of them. California is a two-party consent state, meaning that both parties must consent to the recording in order for it to be quote unquote legal. So there must have been some reason, even though some of these were not consented to by Johnny Depp, there has to be some type of reason why the judge allowed it in as evidence. Maybe both sides said, hey, yeah, let it come in, because maybe one person thinks it helps them over the other and vice versa. All right, we're going to take a quick break. YouTube viewers, stay with us. This is something we have to do for TV. We're going to take that quick commercial break. Keep your questions coming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. We'll try to get to all of them. So you're watching For the Record, the lunch show on Law and Crime. Welcome back to For the Record here on Law and Crime. I'm Jeanette Levy, and thanks for being with us on this Friday afternoon. And all you YouTube viewers, thank you for being with us and submitting all of these questions. Also, thank you to our viewers on Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, all those social media apps where we're getting your fantastic questions. So the next question comes from Paul Lindgren. This is from YouTube. Was the near bumping into each other moment at the end of the testimony between Johnny and Amber a mistake by the court? Oh, right. Let's pull up the video clip because this moment happened during a break yesterday. Look at that. So you can see Depp's team, they're trying to go out the door. They usually go out of. Amber Heard's there. She steps back. There are deputies there providing security who are like, okay, yeah, this is not going to happen. So it was super awkward. It's awkward to even watch it. But I know just from being at the courthouse that they keep them separated. They have to go through those doors on each side of the courtroom at separate times. They come in separately. So I'm wondering your thoughts on that, Mike.
It's a little unusual because usually in a courtroom, once the jury leaves, they have the witness leave. And then everybody leaves and does what they need to do. I don't know if there was any ill intent there. It seemed more like a coincidence. If you look, Johnny Depp wasn't even looking in that direction, and maybe he assumed she had either left the stand or she was still sitting there. But I just don't see it because, quite frankly, anything that the jury doesn't see really doesn't have much effect on how this case is going to turn out.
Yeah, and I think that probably was just a weird timing mistake, Obviously, people just weren't paying attention. It happened. And and then they kept them apart, which is a good thing. All right, Sheila Sakowicz-Kane, she is posing a question to us from Facebook. Amber Heard mentioned that others were there during some of the instances of abuse. Can she be charged with perjury if Johnny Depp's lawyers prove she lied numerous times about the physical abuse? Catherine, that one's to you.
Yes, definitely. She is on the stand swearing under oath that she's telling the truth under penalty of perjury. She has to tell the truth while on the stand. That's why Depp's team it behooves them to bring in witnesses that she says were present there. For example, she testified that there was some physical abuse involving the flight attendant during one of their trip in the plane going to Russia. So it'll be interesting if that flight attendant will be a witness there. And we saw how she also is saying about Whitney, her younger sister, being almost hit by Johnny Depp. That's why that was the first time that Amber ended up hitting Johnny Depp. So it's interesting to see what Whitney will testify at trial to support her claim, because the other witnesses will corroborate or contradict what she's saying. And if she lied blatantly to the court, that is not taken lightly by court and the judge.
Interesting. And that, a prosecutor would have to bring the case as well. So I just want to add to that, Catherine, would the judge have to refer that to a prosecutor? Would a prosecutor just have to observe it? How would that work? Just really briefly so we can get to this clip.
Briefly, the judge can issue the contempt order herself and talk to the lawyers and get proof of that and then create her own ruling.
Interesting. All right. Thanks for that insight. Good question. Good answer. Let's look now at a clip about what Amber Heard claims happened on that plane ride from Boston to Los Angeles back in 2014 when Johnny Depp was shooting Black Mass. She said there was a conversation about James Franco and whether or not she was possibly cheating on Johnny Depp with James Franco. She says Johnny Depp hated James Franco. So she claims that Johnny Depp was blacked out during that flight and that he slapped her in the face and kicked her. So let's listen.
And I, at some point in this, get up and move to the front of the plane. And I remember getting up so slowly. I didn't want to aggravate him. I didn't want to give him any excuse to pounce on. I didn't want to upset him. I didn't want him to flip a switch and get worse. I just remember very slow movements, and I slowly get up and move to the front of the plane, and he starts throwing things at me. Ice cubes, utensils. He's calling me a go-getter and then an embarrassment, talking about what an embarrassment I am. I don't know how many times I moved seats. I wish I did. I don't. I remember moving more than once. And Johnny came to me each time, not the other way around. He sits down in front of me at one point, and because I'm not answering him, I was looking out of the window, and he slaps my face. And his friend is in our proximity. And it didn't hurt my face. It just felt embarrassed. Did he do that to me in front of people? It was the first time that anything like that had happened in front of somebody.
That was Amber Heard on the stand yesterday. We want to get to more of your questions now. This is super exciting, Mike. Comes from Margaret Venter from South Africa. Thank you so much, Margaret, for watching from South Africa. Very cool. She asks, how do juries work? And how does it impact their everyday lifestyle? Do they just give up work, use their leave days? I'm assuming she means, vacation days. So, Mike, you take that one.
I'm smiling because this is the first time I've done this show. And I was thinking, if you're a trial attorney, you've got to be watching this. And the reason's not so much the importance of what we're saying, but actually I'm learning as I sit here because people who aren't attorneys or are not familiar with it are potential jurors. And the question that these people are asking can only make a lawyer better because he can know what questions to answer. And a jury is a very difficult position to be in this case. And the jurors basically have to shut their life out during testimony, which is difficult these days considering everybody always wants to look at their iPhone. You can't do that when you're a juror.
Okay, so this is a good question, Catherine. I think a lot of people are probably thinking about this since we've heard so much about drugs in this case. And this comes from Squishy Noodle on Twitch. Squishy Noodle asks, Amber and Johnny have admitted to doing illegal drugs many, many times. Can they get in trouble for that alone?
That alone, I would say no, because I don't think there's any prosecutors out there who will actually prosecute them for what they're testifying right now. It's just not going to look good for the prosecutor, and it's not going to be worth it. The reason all of these are coming out is because to support their claim that that they are in an abusive relationship. It's very obviously drug abuse is very serious, but no prosecutor that I can think of will take on that case. So I don't think they'll be charged for that one.
And prosecutors, across the country, they have huge, tremendous caseloads. They don't focus on stuff like this, I would add, too, just because, it would be different if we're talking about trafficking and, horrendous amounts of, opioids or something like that. But this is, these are people taking, cocaine and mushrooms and stuff like that. So a prosecutor's not going to waste their resources on this. And the statute of limitations may be up as well. All right, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, more of your questions. Stay with us. If you're on YouTube, we have to do this commercial break on the network. We'll be right back. Welcome back to For the Record here on Law and Crime. I'm Anjanette Levy, and it's Friday. Happy Friday, everybody, and thanks for being with us on YouTube as well. We want to show you some of Amber Heard's testimony. She took the stand on Wednesday afternoon. Her testimony continued all day yesterday on direct examination. And this is a moment in which Amber Heard says that she punched Johnny Depp in the face, and she said it was the first time she had ever done so. So let's listen to it, and we'll discuss on the other side.
In all of my relationship to date with Johnny, I hadn't landed a blow. And I, for the first time, hit him. Actually hit him. Square in the face. He didn't push my sister down the stairs. And all my time of being in that relationship to that point, hadn't even landed one on Johnny. Sure, I had tried to fight back, threw my arms, flailed my arms, hit whenever I could to try to block blows myself, but never landed anything. And Johnny kind of looked stunned and then laughed at me and then lunged at me again. And before I know it, security stepped in between us and pulled Johnny away. And I went upstairs with my sister, and we locked the door, and I could just hear all this commotion happening in Penthouse 5. I could hear him raging, destroying my things. I could hear it. And at some point I saw it the next day.
Okay. So a different account of that event given by Amber Heard. It differs from what both Travis McGivern, his bodyguard, testified to, and differs from Johnny Depp's testimony. Okay, our next question comes from Twitch. This is Luckiest Mofo. Can I say that I guess I can say that on TV. We're on cable and streaming. Can you explain why Johnny Depp's lawyers keep objecting on hearsay when Amber starts telling what she herself said? I thought hearsay had to do with hearing something from another party. We kind of addressed this a little bit earlier, but Mike, why don't you take that one?
I tend to agree. I think sometimes these are not well-founded objections, and that's why I said before, I think they're getting granted a little bit too much. But one thing you do when you object is you throw the rhythm off of the questioner, the person who's asking the questions, and the person who's answering them, because you stop thinking about your answer and you're thinking about what are they objecting to, and you lose your train of thought.
Catherine, do you have any thoughts on that? I'm wondering because, obviously, I think they do that sometimes strategically, form an objection or make an objection to interrupt the flow. But we heard it a lot yesterday. I mean, it was like objection, hearsay. And she was repeatedly told, Amber Heard was, by her attorney, Elaine Bredehoft, you can't say what they said. And she was like, oh, okay. But then she still tried to do it.
Yes, and Mike is correct, and you as well, that it's usually used to throw off people testifying when they make the objection. Now, hearsay objection, what legally that means is it's an out-of-court statement that was made by someone outside of the courtroom and being now offered as evidence at the trial for the truth of the matter asserted. You probably heard that from one of the lawyers. What that just means, the legal term, that it's being offered because it was supposed to be true at the time that it was being said out of court. Now, the purpose behind hearsay objection is because you cannot cross-examine the person who made that statement, so you don't want that coming in. But when Amber Heard is the one saying it, obviously she said it outside of the court, but she's there testifying. And most of the time, if the person is testifying there, they can say what they said at that time, and then they can be cross-examined there. But Judge Ascarati seems to be a purist. I've heard some commentators describe her as that in terms of she's very strict with the definition of hearsay. If it is an out-of-court statement offered for the truth of the matter asserted, whether or not it's by Amber or someone else, she will sustain the objection.
All right, Mike, this one's for you. It comes from Marie Henrian from YouTube. Is it true that if Amber's team is able to prove that Johnny's been abusive to her even just once, he will automatically lose his case? Is that a 100% certainty?
I believe it is. It meets an element of the proofs that they have to prove, and if she does prove that, he's got a major problem.
Okay, let's go to another question. This one is from Twitch, and it is waterproof mascara. Oh my gosh, I answered one of waterproof mascara's questions the other day. So back to waterproof mascara. We've heard a lot about makeup in this trial. The question is, what will happen after Amber's cross-examination? Will other witnesses testify for her? I guess, Catherine, I'll throw that one to you.
Sure, no problems. Waterproof mascara, yes. Yes, other witnesses will be testifying on her behalf because she has not yet rested her case. She is only the second witness for her case. Johnny Depp rested his case, which means he's done providing witnesses. And now we're at Amber Heard's case. The first witness they had was Dr. Hughes, and now she is the second one. So after her, there will be more witnesses who will testify on her behalf.
All right. Guess what? Newsflash, breaking news here on Law and Crime. Everybody on YouTube, we're staying on till 3 p.m. Eastern. You have us for another hour. Very exciting because we love answering your questions and listening to the clips and hearing what you have to say. We are all here for you. Okay, let's do another question. This one is from Alexander Boyce. Mike, this one's for you. I'll actually say who the question is for this time. And we have to be brief. We don't have much time left in this hour. Question, who do you think has the stronger case at this stage in the trial? Ooh, Mike Korbanix, let's put you on the spot.
All right, I'm going to move off the spot because we won't really know until the jury comes back with a verdict. I think it's really difficult to say where we're going because, quite frankly, the more she testifies, like you said, Johnny Depp's done. We're going to hear more of her. She may pick up some momentum here by the time her testimony's done, so it's a little too early to predict, for me at least.
Well, I'm wondering what you think of that, Catherine. Obviously, trials, that there are ebbs and flows. There are good days and bad days for both sides. So how do you feel about it? And we just have about 25 seconds left.
I feel Johnny Depp has won his case in terms of the public opinion because that's exactly what he wanted to get out of here. So whether or not he wins the actual defamation lawsuit, I don't think it matters to him. He got his story out, so he wins by that standard.
All righty. Well, as I mentioned, we are staying on YouTube for another hour until 3 Eastern time here in the United States. Thanks so much for being with us today, Mike Korobonics. As always, we have to sign you off. Catherine and I are staying. You stay with us too while we take a break on the network. You are watching For the Record on Law and Crime.
I couldn't breathe. I couldn't get through to him. I couldn't get up. I couldn't get up. And I don't know how that ended. I don't know.
That is Amber Heard on the stand, crying, offering testimony about her relationship with Johnny Depp in this defamation trial. Welcome to the third hour of For the Record here on Law and Crime, and happy Friday. Thanks for being with us, and welcome to everybody on YouTube. We love having you here with us on this Friday afternoon and every other afternoon when we do the lunch show. We are taking your questions until 3 p.m. Eastern time, so keep them coming on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and Facebook. We will do our best to get to all of them and answer them. Catherine Lizardo, plaintiff's attorney from Texas, is here with me. Always some great insight. We have a lot of fun doing this with you. So we are going to look back at some of Amber Heard's testimony. She testified that about this abusive incident that she said happened in the beginning of her relationship with Johnny Depp, and she described what happened. There was a discussion about one of his tattoos. So let's listen to what Amber Heard told the jury.
Do you remember the first time that he physically hit you?
Yes.
Please tell the jury about it.
It was it's seemingly so stupid, so insignificant. I will never forget it. It changed my life. I was sitting on the couch, and we were talking. We were having a normal conversation, just there was no fighting, no argument, nothing. And he was drinking, and I didn't realize at the time, but I think he was using cocaine because it was like there was a jar of cocaine out on the table. I realize that sounds weird, but it's like an actual vintage jar of it. But I didn't see him use it at the time, so I didn't really factor that in. I just, he's drinking and we're talking, and there's music playing, and he's smoking cigarettes, and we're sitting next to each other on the couch. And I asked him about the tattoo he has on his arm. And to me, it just looked like black marks. I didn't know what it said. It just looked like muddled, faded tattoo that was hard to read. And I said, what does it say? And he said it says wino. It says wino. And I didn't see that. I thought he was joking because it didn't look like it said that at all. And I laughed. It was that simple. I just laughed because I thought he was joking. And slapped me across the face. And I laughed. I laughed because I didn't know what else to do. I thought this must be a joke.
All right, so let's now listen to what Johnny Depp testified to about this instance involving the Winona Ryder tattoo. Johnny Depp, of course, dated Winona Ryder years and years ago. They were kind of like this really cute couple back in the 90s. Maybe it was the 90s. All right, so let's listen to what Johnny Depp had to say.
Mr. Depp, do you recall at the beginning of her opening, Ms. Heard's counsel mentioned that the first time you supposedly struck Ms. Heard was in response to a comment about one of your tattoos?
Yes, I remember.
And what is your response to that?
It didn't happen. I've never struck Miss Heard. As I said yesterday, I've never struck Miss Heard. I've never struck a woman in my life. I'm I'm certainly not going to strike a woman if she decides to make fun of a tattoo that I have on my body. That's like going into someone's journal and picking out things you don't like. She had made mention, there was no incident of argument when the tattoo thing had been brought up many times, and I mean, there's really nothing I can do. I've always thought of my body as a journal, if you will, to mark experiences, to mark life experiences. You know, for example, when my first child was born, I had her name tattooed over my heart, which is where her little head used to be when I rock her to sleep. I marked my boy's birth by tattooing myself for him. So no one can go back, or no one should go back and rewrite their journals. Why would I take such great offense to someone making fun of a tattoo on my body? That allegation never made any sense to me whatsoever.
Catherine, I'm wondering what you think. Two very different accounts. Johnny Depp says it didn't happen.
Yes, and it's nice to see them side by side, because this is a he said, she said kind of case. So this is a defamation case. And the question the jury will have to evaluate is who's more credible between the two of them. And the way that Johnny Depp stated what was happening, it's more emotional. I felt more emotional with his statement. Of course, with Amber Heard, you never hit a woman, never hit a man. So I'm not, in any way belittling her testimony, but it seemed more rehearsed as to how she said it. And there's two things that stuck out in my mind when she was testifying. She specifically said that he was drinking, and I think he had cocaine because of that vintage jar. And when I heard that, the first thing I thought of was when Amber Heard's lawyer was actually questioning and cross-examining Johnny Depp, and was asking him about this vintage jar that he had, and was asking, didn't you have cocaine in there? And I remember Johnny Depp responding, well, no, but it looked like cocaine might fit in there. But the reason why that stuck in my mind is it seems the cross-examination of Amber Heard's lawyer are now fitting into the narrative that Amber Heard is testifying to. So I thought that was interesting to note.
That is interesting. And there was a lot of note-taking by her side when he was on the stand, understandably so. Okay, let's get back to our questions. We are taking your questions on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook. Keep them coming. We love answering your questions. Catherine, this comes from YouTube. Sandra, a.k.a. Puddin' Pop, that's her name. Can Johnny Depp go back on the stand? Great question. So, Catherine, will we see Johnny Depp on the stand again? What do you think?
Well, it would be really good for his team to bring him back on the stand. Now, I don't remember when he stepped off the stand if his team said that he was subject to recall. Perhaps you might be able to help us with that, Anjanette, if the judge said that. If the judge said that, then he will be recalled. But for now, Amber is on the stand, and Johnny Depp's team's job is to really grill her on cross-examination, which I'm sure she'll be very well prepped on.
And just to let you know, I don't recall exactly whether or not the judge told him he was subject to recall. I don't recall that happening, but he is a party to the case, so he's different than the other witnesses that we've heard from, like Isaac Baruch. He's subject to recall. Dr. Curry's subject to recall. A lot of these witnesses were told they may be called back to testify in rebuttal. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see if Johnny Depp gets back on there in a rebuttal case. Let's go to our next question. This one is from Twitch. It is Katie Cat 1989. I'm guessing Katie Cat was born in 1989. Question, how much of an effect is it positive or detrimental? Will the trial make, oh, this is a good one. How much of an effect will this have on sex and gender stereotypes of representation, given that Amber Heard made self-declarations on being a voice for all women?
I think this case has a great effect on that. And Katie, this is a wonderful question, because I think even though this Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial is now, being broadcasted everywhere and everyone is so interested in it, underlying it is that issue of putting up front the issue of gender bias as to domestic abuse. So here, one of the powerful things that Johnny Depp and also Amber Heard has mentioned is you never hit a woman, you never hit a man or anyone, and men can also be, a victim of domestic abuse. I think the underlying issue in this case will bring that all up, and it's good that it is, because now we're actually discussing it, and you're even asking about it, which means it's doing its job to creating that discussion. So, great question.
Yeah, that is a great question. Now we are going to hear from Tony Holmes. This one is from Facebook. And she asks, what do you expect cross-examination to look like of Amber Heard once the break is over? She, of course, is still on direct. I think we still have quite a bit of direct examination left from Amber Heard. So the cross won't take place until the week of May 16th. Do you anticipate a turn in the case, or perhaps even outing her in a lie?
I think the cross-examination is going to be very, very interesting because of the fact that Johnny Depp's team is already gearing in and really have strong reactions with her testimony. Earlier on, Jeanette mentioned and showed the clip where Van Chu, Johnny Depp's lawyer, had that. So it's very interesting to see how they're going to portray that. And we saw how contentious it was, hostile, when Johnny Depp was the one being cross-examined. Now, let's see what Ben Chu's technique will be, because he doesn't come across as confrontational, unlike Amber Heard's attorney have been with cross-examination.
And let me just, clarify something, Catherine. Camille Vasquez, she will be the one cross-examining Amber Heard. So it'll be interesting to see Camille. Yeah, Camille Vasquez did part of the opening statement, if you'll recall, and she is the one making all of the objections. This is her witness. So we're going to have woman on woman. We had man on man, a man crossing Johnny Depp. Now we're going to have a woman cross-examining Amber Heard, and I think that's by design. They want a woman to go after her, and not a man. And it's probably, a lot of it has to do with optics, I would assume. I could be wrong on that, but that's just my opinion. All right, Jennifer Rhodes. Jennifer Rhodes asks, would the jury ever have the chance to view or read Johnny's testimony? Seems like a lot to remember over a long period of time. Good question, Jennifer.
Yes, Johnny, the jury can read his testimony. It is so long, a lot of witnesses. What happens is that when the jury deliberates, they can ask the judge questions to clarify things. And one of the things they can ask is, can we read the testimony of Johnny Depp at this particular testimony? And the judge and the lawyers will talk about it. And then if all parties agree, then the transcript, the court transcript, will be given to the jury to read. That's why there's a court reporter there who's typing everything and typing everything that was said in court. And the lawyers actually get those transcripts at the end of the day so they can prepare for the next day. So the jury also will have the opportunity to read that if they need it for their deliberation.
All right. Well, good question, Jennifer. And you're right. It's a lot to remember. We've had a lot of information in this trial. All right. We're going to take a quick break on the network side here. YouTube viewers, stay with us. We have to take these commercial breaks. We have no choice. So you are watching For the Record on Law and Crime, both on air here on the stream and on YouTube. Welcome back to For the Record here on Law and Crime. I'm Anjanette Levy, and thanks for being with us both on the network and on YouTube. We are taking your questions until 3 o'clock Eastern time, so keep them coming on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook. We'll try to get them all in, and you guys have really good questions, so thanks for joining us. All right, we have got Prabhav Gupta from YouTube. Hi, Prabhav. Happy Friday to you. During cross-examination, can Depp's lawyers prove Heard's perjury, and what could be the repercussions of it in this case? This is kind of similar to one we did earlier, but I'll let you take it from there, Catherine.
Yes, great question. Whenever a witness on the stand perjures themselves, it gets supported by other witnesses that are later called or have been called, and to see if who actually is lying. And we talked about earlier that if the judge deems someone actually perjured themselves, Judge Ascaretti can issue a ruling and talk to the lawyers, of course, so they have an opportunity to argue against or for the perjury ruling against either Johnny Depp or Amber Heard, and then the judge can issue that ruling for the case itself as to perjury. It could be fine, it could be imprisonment, but perjury is a very, very serious offense to the court, and judges don't take that lightly.
No, they don't. And this judge does not seem like she puts up with any nonsense. I don't know if you've noticed that, Catherine, but Judge Ascaretti, she is on time. We do not see delays. She says, keep it moving, move along, she doesn't want any shenanigans. All right, this next question comes from Amanda McNally from YouTube. Amanda asks, why hasn't there been more family or friends as witnesses on both sides, since most of them are key figures in these events? Well, the trial's not over, but Catherine, what are your thoughts on that?
Hi, Amanda. Thank you for your question. My thought is, it's really difficult to have your family, special close family, to testify because you're trying to protect them. There have been questions as to why Lily Rose, for example, Johnny Depp's daughter, hasn't testified on his behalf. If I was Johnny Depp or a parent, as a parent, because I am a parent, I wouldn't want my kids or any close family members to be involved in this. If they don't need to testify, they don't have to. So most likely they're trying to support testimony for themselves on their behalf, using other witnesses. And we saw 30 or so witnesses for Johnny Depp, right, Anjanette? Like, he had a lot. My count was 30, so
right.
They feel that was enough for him.
I agree with you on the children. As a parent, Catherine, you and I have talked about this before. We are both moms. Your first instinct is to protect your children. And I don't know this for a fact, but I would most certainly assume, and I've seen Johnny Depp on like Ellen talking about his daughter. I looked at some clip the other night. He loves his children, and I'm assuming he does not want them brought into this because they are his children. All right, let's look at a clip now. We're going to look at some testimony from Amber Heard, and one of the biggest instances in this case, or incidents of violence, has to do with that Australia incident back in March of 2015. This is when Johnny Depp was filming Pirates of the Caribbean 5, and the facts surrounding this are in dispute. Both sides telling very different stories about those days in Australia and how Johnny Depp's finger, the top portion of his right middle finger, was severed. So let's listen to what Amber Heard told the jury about that yesterday.
So stupid. Sorry. It was like a light bulb switch went off. And he starts screaming. I don't know if he backhanded me or hit me normally. I don't really recall, but I remember it sent me down to the ground. I remember by the time I picked myself off the floor, I stand up. He's got a bottle in his hand, and he threw it at me. It missed, thankfully, but I kind of pulled myself back into the bar area. I don't know how much time passed, but at some point he had a broken bottle up against my face, neck area by my jawline, and he told me he'd carve up my face. I don't know at what point in the evening. I couldn't tell you what sequence.
After Ms. Heard threw the vodka bottle at you and severed your finger, what, if anything, did she say when she saw the injury?
I don't recall anything, but just it was almost like white noise, or just someone yelling. It was just a high-pitched, constant attack of insults. It was just jumbled words to me in a very high frequency, and I was in a bit of shock, you know. I was in shock.
You mentioned that you reached out to Dr. Kipper. Did you receive medical attention after that?
Yes, Jerry Judge, Malcolm Connolly, I believe Debbie Lloyd was there. Yes, Debbie Lloyd was there. Ben King had arrived as well.
Who is Ben King?
Ben King was, he's essentially, he's a house, sort of an estate manager, and we worked together in London a few times, and he's a wonderful guy. So I brought Ben along to Australia to manage everything. He's very, very good and very nice. And then there was also yeah, I mentioned Malcolm and Jerry. Yeah, they were there as well.
Okay, Catherine Lizardo, what do you think of those two differing accounts?
It's very interesting how one is more detailed than the other. Johnny Depp had more detail going on for him as to the bottle being thrown at his hand, and the way he explained it. When he was testifying, if you recall, he actually went to the bar of his where he was sitting to demonstrate it. So you can visualize what's happening, and it's one of the very center of this case as to what happened to his finger. And so based on the two, credibility-wise, I'm leaning towards more of what Johnny Depp is saying. But again, Amber Heard's testimony isn't finished, so I'd like to hear more from her on that one.
And I think we will hear more from her on that. She went through that whole Australia incident, and you can guarantee we will hear more about it on cross-examination when the trial resumes the week of May 16th. Catherine, let's get to some of those great questions. We are taking your questions on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook. Keep them coming, and we will do our best to get to all of them. This one comes from Bree on YouTube. Do you think they will bring Kate Moss? Let's hold that one. That's something to talk about. Let's hold that one. Let's go to, because that's a good one. Let's go to Hrishav Chakraborty. If I've butchered your name, I'm so sorry. I think it's Hrishav, actually. I think the H might be silent. There's a clear audio somewhere in YouTube. I listened, he says. There was clearly showing that talking to some doctor, she admitted that she cut off his finger. Did the judge listen to that too? Oh, that's interesting. So Hrishav, I think I'm mispronouncing that, is saying there's audio of Amber Heard admitting to cutting off his finger. So what do you make of that?
If that audio exists, because you mentioned you heard it, it's curious why it hasn't been played in court. Because that would be very critical and supportive of whether or not she did cut off his finger. So we'll see if that's going to come out later on. But so far in Johnny Depp's case, that audio, I haven't heard it, unless Anjanette, you've heard it yourself as well. But it's interesting that hasn't come in. And if it didn't come in, most likely there was a motion to exclude it, and they had a reason to exclude it. So we'll need to dig into that, definitely.
Yeah, we need to dig. Yeah, we need to dig into that. Rishoff, send us the link. Put it in the YouTube chat. We'll take a look. All right, let's get to this question on Twitch. Decito, she says she got hit, backslapped repeatedly while being held by Johnny Depp as he was wearing rings. You see in court, he's got all of those big rings on. How that didn't leave a mark or didn't need medical assistance, since he is clearly stronger and has huge rings and always on his fingers. He says. You're so cute. Sorry for the bad English. I'm from Italy. No problem. We get the gist. Catherine, take it away.
And thank you so much for listening from Italy. Yes, it's a great question, because I was thinking the exact same thing when she testified that she was hit with rings on his finger, and those are big rings. And what's interesting is we've heard in Johnny Depp's case, witnesses, bodyguards, and even people who've seen Amber Heard, for example, the front desk person at their penthouse, all claiming that they've never really seen Amber Heard with any bruises or anything that showed injuries on her face or her body. So it's interesting what witnesses she will bring to testify and contradict those witnesses. She might say that you can't see it because of the makeup. I know, during opening, they brought up a lot about her being good at hiding things because of her makeup.
Right. And she's I guess, really good with the makeup since she's modeled and been in movies and things like that, according to her side. We did see a couple of pictures there where she had some cuts on her arms and things like that. So it'll be interesting to talk about this and hear the testimony about it when court resumes. All right, we're taking a quick break here on the network. Stay with us on YouTube. We have to take these commercial breaks on the network. We just got to do it. So stay with us on YouTube. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. You are watching For the Record on Law and Crime. Welcome back to For the Record here on the Law and Crime Trial Network. I'm Anjanette Levy. Thanks for being with us this Friday afternoon. It's Friday. Happy weekend, everybody. We are taking your questions on YouTube, so keep them coming on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook. We'll try to get to all of them, and they're really good questions, so keep them coming. We're going to take a look now at some of the testimony from the two experts who've testified in this case. Forensic psychologist Dr. Shannon Curry testified for Johnny Depp's legal team. She diagnosed Amber Heard with 2 personality disorders, borderline and histrionic personality disorder, and said that she doesn't suffer from PTSD, but Amber Heard's expert, as you can imagine, disagreed with those findings. So let's look at a little bit of Dr. Curry and Dr. Hughes' testimony, and then we'll discuss it.
Dr. Curry, you were just asked a question about malingering.
Yes.
And made reference to the MMPI-2. Is there another test that you did to make a determination with respect to malingering?
Yes. So malingering is a term that most psychologists, we try to be careful of it because it indicates an intent for secondary gain. I prefer feigning, which you had brought up earlier, because it indicates that somebody is intentionally exaggerating, but I don't know necessarily why. So I think that's a more accurate term in general. On the MMPI-2, yes, there was no exaggerated profile. I also gave her the CAPS-5. I don't know if you'll remember, but that is the clinician-administered PTSD scale consistent with the DSM-5. And on that, there were signs of gross exaggeration. I also looked at the test results that were provided by Dr. Hughes, and on an objective test of trauma, there is a scale specific to intentional exaggeration on that test, and Ms. Heard was in the 98th percentile, meaning that she had engaged in extreme levels of exaggeration.
I administered 3 of the tests had validity indices built in that could allow us to address that question. The MFAS, the Miller Assessment, a Forensic Assessment of Symptoms test, is a specific malingering instrument. It looks at malingering psychopathology. Is this someone, malingering psychopathology? She scored a 0 on that scale. So on that test, sorry, not the scale, that test. So on that test, there was no evidence of malingering. On the TSI, there are 2 validity indices, and she scored within the normal range on those scores as well. One was slightly elevated, but when in testing the limits, because it has rare symptoms and over-endorsed symptoms, I determined that that also was a valid measure. And then finally, the PAI, the large scale 344 question instrument, has very robust validity scales on it to test for exaggeration or feigning or malingering, and she did not score in any of those scores and those scales at all. Those were not elevated. So the combined results between those three tests suggests to me that Ms. Heard is not malingering.
Okay, so we have two experts with two very different positions on this. Dr. Curry, who met with Amber Heard, and she is hired by, was hired by Depp's legal team, says that basically Amber Heard was malingering, feigning symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. Don Hughes, the expert for Amber Heard, says no, she wasn't faking. It's all real. And also Dr. Hughes had concluded that Heard was engaging in what she called reactive violence, and that it was low levels of violence toward Johnny Depp. But Dr. Curry had said that that Heard engaged in what was called emotional reactivity, and that was consistent, she said, with her diagnosis of borderline personality disorder, and it's a common tactic to administer violence and make threats using the legal system and anything to express a big emotion or anger. So a lot to talk about there, and we have questions from you guys on YouTube and Twitch and everywhere else about this. This comes from one of our viewers, Panthera. Do you think Dr. Curry's testimony will play a part in how the jury analyzes Amber's behavior on the stand? That's a really good question, Panthera. I'll shoot this one to Karen Felicia Nance. Karen, thanks for hopping on here with us. What do you think of that?
I love the question, Panthera, and I think that both of the experts that we heard from, Johnny's expert, Dr. Curry, as well as Amber's expert, which is Dr. Hughes, I think the jury will weigh both of their information that they presented. I am more inclined to look at Dr. Curry's information as more credible, only in the sense that she presents differently than Dr. Hughes did. She seemed to be, and it's been mentioned earlier, not using her notes. She seemed to be very well versed in what she studied in terms of the hours she spent with Amber, and she seemed to have the information really absorbed in her writings and in her presentation to the jury. She engaged both the jury as well as the person asking questions, and she didn't get her feathers ruffled. She seemed to be very calm, and I like the fact that she didn't rely on the labels of the tests, and it seemed like Dr. Hughes kind of got bogged down in the test, you know, the number of the test, the letters, and I think that is confusing. The jury just wants to hear in plain language, what is the diagnosis? And at the end of the day, it's not, she had some issues, clearly. Amber has some issues. Either it's the personality disorder or the PTSD, which hopefully explains why she was acting so erratically on those messages. So the bottom line is she has some type of dysfunction, mental or otherwise.
And I agree with you, Karen. There were way too many tests thrown out there. I mean, I almost majored in psychology in college, and it was making my head spin a little bit. And I know what some of these tests are. Some of the others, I was like, oh. Okay, so let's get to another question on this topic. This one for Catherine. This is from Bree on YouTube. Do you think they will? Oh, sorry, Bree. We're getting to your question later. I hit the wrong one. This is from actually Lily Roth on YouTube. Wouldn't Amber Heard's testimony show examples of malingering? That is a really good question. Catherine, how do you feel about that? Would her testimony possibly show symptoms of feigning PTSD while she's testifying? You know, obviously the jurors, they are the truth detectors or the lie detectors in this case.
Exactly. And she could do that when she's testifying. And that's one of the things that the jury has to pick up on or be sensitive to, that she can show malingering while she's actually testifying. And what's interesting about Dr. Curry's testimony is she actually shifted the term malingering into feigning and said, I don't want to use the word malingering. Which is the scientific technical term for their expertise as experts. But she said feigning, intentional exaggeration, which made it more of a layman's term. So as a jury, I'm thinking, is she feigning? Is she intentionally exaggerating what she's saying? And there are times when witnesses or the plaintiffs or the defendants who are claiming to be injured, might feign in front of the jury, and the jury can pick up on that and has to weigh that as part of the credibility. Definitely.
Yeah. No doubt. And do you guys think, obviously, Dr. Curry, I'll just ask you really briefly, this is a yes or no question to both of you ladies. Dr. Curry was in court watching Dr. Hughes' testimony. So do you think, I'll start with you, Karen, do you think we'll see Dr. Curry back in rebuttal?
Absolutely.
Catherine?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
He should.
Now let's let's see. So we have a bunch of different questions here. I'll be interested to see if we see Dr. Curry again, and I think she will be back on the stand to talk about everything that we've seen. All right, so we had we wanted to show you this clip, and I'm trying to see if we're going to get to that clip where we are going to let's actually look at the clip. Oh, okay. So we're going to talk to you about this clip that happened yesterday. Okay, so we're moving around a little bit here. And this is actually when Amber Heard was testifying about a March 23rd, 2015 fight between her and Johnny Depp, right? They're fighting. She claims that this is after Australia and that she saw some text messages on Johnny Depp's iPad while he was sleeping, and that he was texting a woman that he had been intimate with at one point in time, and this was after they were married. So she said she basically flipped out, okay? I think she said freaked out. She was very upset. She confronted him about it. Debbie Lloyd, his personal nurse, was there, the addiction nurse, as was Travis McGivern. And she talked a little bit about why she hit Johnny Depp. She claims this is the first time she had ever really landed a blow on him or a punch, and she explained why she did that. So let's listen to that testimony, and I want you to watch very carefully of the end of the clip and what happens. We're actually going to play a video of the aftermath. So let's, okay, so right after this, there was a fist pump that happened. So let's look at that video, if you would. Watch this. This is where they're talking about this, and they're talking about this incident. And Amber Heard actually says, she hit Johnny Depp because she was at the top of the stairs, and so was her sister Whitney. And all she said she could remember was this instance of Kate Moss being tossed down the stairs by Johnny Depp. She claims that she was told this by two individuals. She testified to this in the UK trial. So the minute, watch that, Ben Chew, the minute Kate Moss's name is mentioned, Ben Chew turns around and gives a fist pump to Camille Vasquez, who will do the cross, and Johnny Depp is sitting there smiling. So this was a moment. They're celebrating the mention of this instance with Kate Moss. So, Catherine, what do you think is going on here? She says she clocked him because all she could think about was Kate Moss flying down the stairs. Johnny Depp says he's never hurt a woman. So what do you make of it? Bree on YouTube wants to know if we are going to see Kate Moss on the stand.
What I make of it, first of all, Ben Chew is not a good poker player, but perhaps because he's so excited that she testified about that. And I had to look that up. What's the deal with Kate Moss and the stairs when she testified to that? And it seems that there were rumors that Kate Moss was pushed down the stairs by Johnny Depp. And when Amber Heard provided testimony at the UK, she mentioned that she heard from two people that that's something that Johnny Depp did. Now, I think the reason why Ben Chew was very excited about it is because Amber Heard might have just opened the door regarding prior bad acts, because in civil litigation, you cannot bring in something that the parties did before the incident, because it's to show that they have a propensity of doing that, because it's prejudicial. But by saying what happened with Kate Moss, that might have opened the door as to her prior bad acts as well, because it's my understanding that there were allegations of domestic abuse against her and her female partner before. So maybe that's why Denshu is very excited. And also maybe because Kate Moss might testify as a rebuttal witness for Johnny Depp. So we'll wait and see.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering that too, Catherine. Kate Moss, just FYI, when we all started Googling Kate Moss after this happened yesterday, Kate Moss, stunning, let me just tell you, stunning woman. She was a supermodel back in the day, and she was at the Met Ball with her daughter. And I'm actually just being told that Kate Moss and Johnny Depp are still very close friends, and she is very supportive of Johnny Depp. How about that? So maybe we'll see Kate Moss. We have to take a break. Stay with us both on YouTube and on the network. YouTubers, stay with us. We have to take this break for the network. You are watching For the Record on Law and Crime. Welcome back to For the Record, and all of you people watching on YouTube, thanks so much for being with us. We really appreciate it. We love answering your questions. Keep them coming. Okay, at the end of court on Thursday, before the long break, we have a week off next week in the trial of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. We heard Judge Azcarate basically talk to both Johnny Depp's team and Amber Heard's team about their time. She is keeping track. I mean, I don't know if she has a stopwatch, her clerk does, but they are keeping track of the time that each side uses by the minute, or up to the minute. So let's listen to what the judge told both sides, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
Since I won't see you tomorrow, I wanted to go ahead and give you your times as of this very minute of what you have used and what you have left, okay? Are you ready? Mr. Chu's going to try to use it with a highlighter. Let's wait. There we go. There we have. That's right. Okay. There we go. All right. So plaintiff has used 35 hours and 6 minutes. Defendants have used 36 hours and 31 minutes, which means the plaintiff has 26 hours and 9 minutes left, and the defendant has 24 hours and 44 minutes left. Okay. And just a reminder, as we said from the very beginning, once time is up, once your time is up, your time is up. If it's in the middle of a witness, I'm going to stop you, okay? So make sure, I mean, the 9 to 5 schedule, when we start back on May 16th, will give us a little buffer, but not much. So I will be keeping everyone on task for those last 2 weeks, so keep that in mind. Keeping time. Can you guys believe this? All right. Karen, I'm going to start with you on this one. We have a question from one of our viewers on YouTube, and it's from, I think it's from Bree, and she wants to know, have you ever heard of a trial being timed? So Karen, I think we've heard the judge talk about this before, but have you ever heard of a trial being timed, and why is it timed?
No, I have never heard of a trial being timed. And I believe what the judge is trying to do is put a fire underneath both the plaintiff and the defense to keep them on track, because she has a court schedule. For those of us watching, it seems like this is the only thing that's going on in that courthouse and on her schedule, but she has other matters that she has to attend to. And it's very likely that these attorneys, both on the plaintiff's and the defendant's side, could go on for months, probably, with bringing forth witnesses. Right. And she's trying to wrap it up. And so I think that that's why she's putting a limit on them.
Okay, and actually that question, I misspoke. It was from Terry, I think it's Mikowski from YouTube. So sorry, that was not from Bree. All right, let's get to this one for you, Catherine. This is from Jero Frankenweek. There's a break before cross-examination. Is that an advantage for Depp's team, and why?
That is definitely an advantage for Depp's team. Now, the break right now, though, Amber Heard is still on the stand. So when we come back after the 1 week break, she will still be on the stand for direct examination. And then whenever that finishes, I don't know, a day or two later, if there is a break, then yes, it will be beneficial for Johnny Depp's team so that they can prepare more for this case. I'm sure those lawyers are exhausted and they needed this break because they're not sleeping right now. When you're in trial, you're just go, 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 go.
That is for sure. And it is go, 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 go. Anytime you talk to lawyers when they're in trial, they'll tell you, and I've had them tell me this before, because, you know, what I do, I talk to lawyers, right? I cover trials. And they'll say, you know, I'm thinking about it night and day. I'm in the shower. A question pops up in my head. So it's a slog. It's a slog, and you're sitting there all day, and you're fighting for your clients. So great questions, everybody. We really appreciate it. And thanks so much for being with us for this Friday afternoon as we took your questions. We love doing this for you. We also love producing our podcast. It's called Law and Crime Sidebar, and this is where we recap the day's testimony, and we also recap each week in the testimony. So we really want you to check it out. We really enjoy doing it, and it's on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever else you get your podcasts. So let us know what you think of it. We have bonus content coming, and we'll be producing it all next week as well. So you guys can all get your fix, and we'll recap more of the testimony we haven't been able to touch on. Karen and Catherine, thanks so much for being with us, and thank you for being with us as well. Have a great weekend. We will see you back here next week. We'll see you later.